Hey guys, well, it's another beautiful day in Southern Oregon, and it's about 50 degrees outside and it's 74 inside the greenhouse here, and that's without any heat going. I haven't had the heat going all day because the sun's pretty bright today. But anyways, I want to transplant. I've got 2 tomato plants that I need to get transplanted, and these normally don't live out here. They usually stay inside the grow room because it gets too cold at night out here, and I don't want to crank that heat up to get it up to 55 or 60 degrees inside just for a few tomato plants. So they stay inside. I bring them outside during the day if it warms up nice and sunny and the greenhouse heats warms up really good. And I usually have the fan on. I turned it off so that I could use the do the video, and so you wouldn't have to hear it. But I will bring them out if it's nice and warm. Like today, I brought them out. I brought them out this morning because it was already 55. By the time I got out here at 9 o'clock, it was 55 inside the greenhouse. So I brought them right out, and they've been out here most of the day. But anyways, before I get to these, now these are the 2 that I'm growing right now. I have a hybrid that I'm growing. I know, my channel, right? Grow Your Heirlooms. This is a Sweet and Neat. Now it's a hybrid, but I'm dehybridizing it. So this is the 3rd year that I've been growing this. So this is an F3. I'm hoping that it's going to stabilize. For some reason, the tomatoes have come out looking exactly the same for 2 years, both 2 years I grew it, and this year the plant is exhibiting the same characteristics. So I don't know if they called this an F1, which, I mean, the Sweet Neat is an F1, but I've been getting the same type of tomato. So it looks like this year I'm going to get the same quality or size and whatnot of tomatoes. So anyways, that's a test, and this one here is the Starfire. And the reason why these need attention, they need to go into a bigger pot for one thing, because these pots are way too small for them. And they're also, now the Starfire especially is getting a little bit laggy because it was my neglect. They were in the grow room and they were near a window, but they weren't getting enough light from the grow lights, and they weren't getting enough from the outside light. So I was basically just reaching back in and watering them, and surprisingly they're doing beautifully. They're nice and green and lush, but they're just a little leggy. So when I transplant these, I've already nipped off the lower stems, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bury it up to about here, and then it'll stiffen up a little bit. Now if you let them go too far, there's nothing you can do. You can't get them back. But the top part of the stem here surprisingly is thicker than the lower part. But anyways, I'll show you when I do that. But there were a few questions that I wanted to get answered before I did that, because I apologize if I can't get all of the questions answered, because I get a lot of emails and I get a lot of stuff through the like my Facebook page and the comment section in my videos, and I've got a lot of videos, but I don't have as many as a lot of other people have. I just try to put them out regularly, and I don't worry about just inundating the web with all my videos. But I do get comments on them, and it's just very hard sometimes for me to answer them all. So I'm just going to answer a few at a time. Whenever I do a video, I think I might just answer 1 or 2 whenever I get a chance. Okay, so the first question I have is, what tomatoes are you growing this winter? Now in my grow room, I've got 4 different varieties growing. I've got the Red Robin, the Glacier, I've got the Sweet and Neat, which is the only hybrid that I'm growing, and then I have the Starfire. Now when I pick tomatoes for growing inside, I always try to pick determinants and ones that aren't going to get too big. They're going to stay, I don't want to go over like 2 feet. I don't want them being any taller than, say, that. And the reason is because they just require so much more light, they require so much more nutrients, and I'm not willing to deal with that. So those 4 that I'm growing, the Red Robin, the Glacier, the Sweet and Neat, and then the Starfire. Now, with one caveat, the Starfire, this thing can grow to 4 to 5 feet tall. And it's kind of funny why I'm doing this one is because somebody gave me the seeds and said the seeds were really old. They were like 15 years. It was one of their favorite tomatoes, and they got the seeds from their mom who passed away, and they wanted me to grow this out for them, and they only had like 5 or 6 seeds. So surprisingly, 3 of them came up, and so I gave 2 of them back to her, and she's kind of reluctant about growing them anyways, but she's trying them inside her house. But anyways, I'm growing this one out for her, and it's not a rare plant. You can get these seeds online, but she wanted the one that her mom handed down. Now, she couldn't wait until summer, so you know how that goes. So we're going to grow this out, and by the time this gets fairly tall to move out of my grow room, it can come out into the greenhouse, so it'll be fine, and it should produce really well. Anyways, this is going to get really large, and so we can just disregard that one. The other ones, I always plant determinants, and to make sure that they get, some of them are 12 inches, and they can go to 30 inches or whatever. This one here will probably go to 15, 16 inches. Typically, that's what it's been the last 2 years, and I'm growing this out. Next question. How are the store-bought green onions doing? You're talking about the ones, I did a video like 2 years ago where I grew them, I took the store-bought green onions and I just snipped the bottoms off, the little roots, and I planted the roots out in my raised beds, and they are still growing. Every year they just keep coming back up, and I'll take you outside and I'll show you what they're looking like. Okay, so here are the green onions. And I've been growing these things for, gosh, I don't know how long. It's been a couple years. And here it is, the middle of January, what, 13th? And we had a really cold snap out. And here they are, growing like gangbusters, and I'll be picking these, cutting them off and picking them real soon. So, yeah, I'll never buy green onions again. Third question. Any updates on the ginger? Okay, I just planted the ginger like a week ago. However, I do have an update on it, and I'll show you what's going on. Okay, so here's the ginger update. I planted 3, if you remember, and I've got 1, 2, 3 coming up. So they're growing, and it's only been about a week. I brought them out here in the greenhouse. I normally don't bring stuff out that's like subtropical or whatever into the greenhouse this early in the year. But I brought them out because I was doing the video and you guys wanted to see an update. But anyways, there's the update. Okay, so the first one I'm going to do is this Starfire one. And the same thing will apply for the Sweet and Neat. So anyways, what I'm going to do is I always go up from this small pot to this size pot, the next size up. And the reason being is I don't want to go to a huge pot like this unless I have to. Now this one I eventually will go to this big one because this is going to be a big plant. But with the smaller plants like the Sweet and Neat and the ones that are only going to get 18 to 20 inches tall, I've grown them in these before and they've done fine. Now they will start to get a little root bounce. You might have to keep an eye on that and just keep checking it to make sure that you're not having a problem. But these here, like for this one here, I've grown like the Micro Tom, which is only like a 6 or 8 inch plant, and it's done fine in this. But this plant is not going to be, it's going to get really tall, so it'll probably end up in this one. But I always go in stages because you never know what's going to happen. If I put it into this big one and then the plant decides to croak on me, well, I've wasted all this soil and whatnot. So anyways, I'm just using my regular mix, which is mostly I know a lot of people are going to get upset at me, but I do use compost. I use my own compost that I made, and I use some potting mix and a little bit of coconut fiber and put it all together. Now a lot of people are going to say don't bring your compost inside. Okay, you know what, you're right, you don't bring your compost inside typically, but my compost, I don't worry about it. I've never had any problems inside my grow room, and if the day came that I did have problems inside, then I probably would stop. But for years I've been using my own compost and I've never had any bug problem. If your compost heats up really well, gets nice and hot, and it's nice and clean, you should not have any problems. I'm not telling you to do that because I've seen people that have brought stuff in from outside and it totally decimated their houseplants. I'm just saying that I've never had that problem. My compost, I like it because it's nice and rich, and I think my plants need that, so I'm not going to stress over it. Life's too short to worry about that, and I'm certainly not going to go out and buy 50-pound bags of potting soil just so I can have houseplants. I'm just not going to do it. I make my own compost because I know what's going in it, and so you can buy the organic stuff, I guess, and it'll make you feel good. But anyways, what I do is I take and tilt this up like this and get the pot to come out. Get the plant to come out. Now you'll notice it's starting to have a little bit of, whoops, it's getting a little bit of root bound. You don't want your roots sitting directly on the bottom of this. You always want to put a little bit, a few inches of potting soil in there. I'm going to go ahead and set that in. Now the only advantage to doing a much bigger pot than this is that I would be able to bury this quite a bit deeper. But I'm not going to stress it because I just don't know what this plant is going to do, so I'm not going to waste a big pot on it. And that way too, when I transplant them into bigger pots, I don't have to fertilize them because they'll just get nutrients as I go in stages. They'll get nutrients from the new soil. So, and I just turn this around like this. Just keep spinning it as I'm dumping it in. Like that. You don't want to pat this down too much. Just gently. Just like that. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to water this. Give it a good soaking. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the sweet and neat. And that's all there is to it. I know there's been a lot of videos out there on transplanting tomato plants and whatnot, but I know a lot of people just keep asking me. So the next time I transplant this thing should sturdy up, especially when it's under the, it'll be inside in the fan, in front of the fans, and so it does get nice and sturdy. Even though it looked a little spindly, it is nice and sturdy. The next time I transplant this, it's going to get transplanted all the way up to here. So I may even remove some more of this and transplant it up a little bit farther. But we'll see how this thing goes. Okay, well there are my indoor tomato plants. Now, I was going to say one thing about the big one here, the Starfire. Wow, that sun's really beating in here. It's almost up to 80 degrees. But anyways, you don't have to necessarily let your if you're growing a big tomato plant inside, you don't have to let it get to 6 feet tall. You can always trim it back, and it'll produce less, of course, but you can trim it back and don't let it get big. You're in charge of the plant, so you tell it what to do. You're the boss. So there are limits on that, I understand, but I'm just going to let this one go full bore and we'll see what we get. There's one thing I wanted to also show you guys that I'm going to, I got another blueberry plant. Yes, another blueberry. This makes number 6. No wait, number 5. One got hit by a bulldozer. There were some people doing some work out here for me, and they were doing some grading where it was uneven, and he backed up, kept backing up, beep, 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 beep. Oh well, what are you gonna do? You know, I mean, people see things, they think they're weeds, but they're not. They're just. Anyways, this is a new one that I got last fall, and this is a blueberry, a northern high bush, and it's starting to bud out now because the sun's been coming out a lot, and it's starting to get buds here again. And I hope it doesn't turn cold and kind of fool it, but I've heard good things about this. Never tasted them, but we're going to give that one a try. So another blueberry plant. Yes, another blueberry. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and thanks for watching. We'll catch you guys all later.